Hello, welcome and thanks for joining us today for the next webinar in our What's New series. In today's webinar, we'll be covering some of the newest features in Microsoft 365 that you can implement in your business, as well as covering some brand new features that are coming up in the next few months. Now, don't feel like you need to make notes or take it all in straight away, as we'll be sending out a recording of the webinar, as well as a follow-up fact sheet later today. Also, if you have questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box at the side at any time. I'll be doing my best to keep an eye on those as we go along, but there's also going to be some dedicated time for questions at the end of the webinar. So onto the agenda for today. Your Copilot sessions to be grouped by timeframe. Plus, I'm also going to throw in a couple of smaller quality of life Copilot updates in there as well. New features to forms within Microsoft Lists. SharePoint is receiving an updated document library experience. Microsoft Teams presenters will soon be able to view chat while screen sharing, and Copilot to analyze shared screen content within Teams meetings. And lastly, of course, what's next? It's good to see so many people coming back and joining us again, and welcome, of course, to all of the new faces too. Let's start with a brief introduction to Bedroq. My name is Craig Mundy and I'm the Marketing Campaign Executive at Bedroq. You might even recognize my voice from other videos on our website or YouTube channel. Although I am a bit bunged up today, so maybe I sound a bit different. Bedroq is an IT managed service provider and Microsoft solutions partner for modern work. And this means that most of the IT we implement is based on the Microsoft stack. So that's things like Microsoft 365, Microsoft Teams, Azure, etc. We're also experts in secure, resilient networks and managed IT solutions where high performance is critical. We work with organizations that have some of the highest security requirements in the UK, and we manage mission-critical IT and operational technology for those highly regulated organizations. The most important thing that we want to get out of this webinar, no matter what it is that your organization does, is to make sure that your IT strategy is supporting your business as a whole. Now, we do this with the help of our 8 strategic rocks that you can see on the slide here: data, skills, backup, strategy, investment, security, quality of service, and collaboration. Now, the collaboration rock is the focus of this series, as most of the apps that we talk through are collaboration tools. And many people that we come across have invested heavily into their IT. They've bought all of these apps and they have their Microsoft licenses, but they're not using them to their full potential, and therefore not seeing the best return on investment either. So really, that's the aim of this webinar series, to keep you up to date with everything that's coming out and everything that you can start to implement that you probably already have access to, and hopefully start to make a big difference to your business strategy. The first feature I'd like to cover today is coming to Copilot. Soon, all of your existing and future Copilot chat histories will be grouped into timeframes. You can see a few of these on the slide, but there are some extras as well. So the full list of the timeframes are as follows: today, yesterday, previous 7 days, previous 30 days, this year, and finally last year. If one of these timescales doesn't contain any sessions, then that timeframe will simply not be displayed in this list. It's important to note here that your existing functionalities, such as session deletion and the ability to change the name of your session, will be unaffected by this update. In order to access your full chat history, you will need to simply look to the right-hand panel of Copilot. All the way down at the bottom, there is a See More option. Click on that, and it will expand the chat section, as you can see here, and it will display all of your previous chats and sessions. They should all be neatly organized into these timeframes that I listed previously as well. Now, if you frequently use Copilot to support your day-to-day tasks, then I can see it being difficult or time-consuming to keep a track of your chat history when you're trying to look back and find certain notes. So hopefully with this update, however, at a glance anyway, you'll be able to hone in on the right sort of time frame to give you a head start on searching from there. Not only is this a nice quality of life for those who dabble in Copilot, but as I say, a bigger time saver for those that frequently use Copilot and have long chat histories to refer to and search through. This feature is due early March, So if you're on Copilot a lot, make sure to keep an eye out for this update. Our next update ties in perfectly with that previous feature. To continue helping you to keep on top of and organize your chat history within Copilot, your chats will soon get auto-generated titles. So once Copilot has finished responding to your first prompt, a relevant title based on the context and prompt of the answer will be, prompt and the answer will be, you'll get a relevant title created therefrom. Previously, the title would just be the same as your first prompt, which left quite a lot to be desired, especially, as I said, if you use Copilot a lot and needed to go back through your chat histories a lot, it could make it tricky to find out which of your chats you were looking for. As I said during the previous feature, even once the title is generated, you'll be able to still rename each session as well as delete them as normal. This update is due by the end of March, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that one as well. Here's a little extra update as well for you guys. The Microsoft 365 Copilot chat input box design will be updated to be a consistent design across the web and work tabs with no functionality changes. So it's a really simple further update, but I can't quite believe that it's not been done before now, to be quite honest. But the important thing is that, they're getting to it now. Consistency is such a crucial aspect that we perhaps don't always appreciate. So for any one of you experienced Copilot users, and of course for any new users as well, this update will help you get up to speed and simply improve the way in which we use Copilot across platforms. This update is due mid-March. Okay, moving on, we're going to look at several new features that are coming to forms within the Microsoft Lists application. Now, I know that sounds a little bit confusing, as is the way with Microsoft's naming schemes, but in case you haven't used the Lists app, it is designed to help users to track information, organize work, and collaborate with other users. The Forms functionality within this app is essentially a Microsoft version of a questionnaire that you can send out to your contacts or internal team in order to collect specific details and information. This update in particular will include features such as form scheduling, conditional branching, quick form creation, additional field types, new form customization options, and improved control over notifications. I'll talk you through some of these features in a bit more detail now. Firstly, the new creation experience. It's super simple. It's a super simple change, but you will be able to create forms directly from the Lists homepage, from SharePoint, and from the Lists app within Microsoft Teams. Having this great accessibility allows you to make forms in a number of ways, so you can choose whichever suits your needs best at the time. I've said it many times before, but being able to choose how you work to suit your style is really, really important. Next, we've got conditional branching, which lets you show or hide certain questions based on previous answers. As you can see in the screenshot, once you set out your questions, there's a Go To section. This area lets you choose from a drop-down menu of your questions, Next, and End of Form. By default, it will simply be set to Next, so that no matter the answer, they will simply move on to the next question on the form. I think perhaps the clearest way to explain this update in this example is to look at the first question, which is, will you be attending this event? If the answer is no, the person is then taken to explain to that section that's asked them to please share your reason for not attending, which, once answered, takes them to the end of the form, as no other further details are required. So this is a really intuitive update that saves both the user and the data collector from any confusion. I'm sure we've all been there, filling out questionnaires, and there's a question or two that you're either not sure how to answer, but it's a required answer box, or if you even should be answering it. So this, of course, leads to unnecessary data being processed, or, as I say, potentially confusion amongst both parties, leading to more Teams messages or emails back and forth trying to work out the responses. So you can create forms and set them to seamlessly flow between questions as you need them to. This next one is so simple that I can't quite believe it's not been possible until now. But you will be able to enhance your forms by adding your logo, reinforcing your brand identity across your forms. Again, super straightforward, but a necessary update, especially for those of you using forms externally to collect information from your customers or your event attendees, etc., etc. When you've got an audience that knows your brand or logo, it goes a long way in building trust. So it may encourage those that do trust you, that know your logo, to fill out the form when they perhaps would have previously not even bothered. Additionally, Microsoft will be adding 4 new field types that you can put into your forms. And these are location, image, lookup, and attachment. The location field will allow you to collect location data with support for location columns on forms. Whether you're planning events, managing inventory, or tracking deliveries, this feature ensures that you have accurate location information at your fingertips. With the image column, you can now include images in your forms. So this is particularly valuable on mobile browsers where the form can access the device camera for a quick image capture and upload. This is ideal for your audits, visual surveys, product feedback, or basically any form where images can enhance the data collection process. Simply meaning that the person doing the survey will be able to add images or photos to support their answers. Lookup support. This will enhance your forms with the lookup columns, which enable you to pull data in from your other lists. And this means that the values from a column in another list can be displayed as choices in your form. This feature is particularly useful for creating relationships between different datasets, ensuring that your forms are always populated with the most current information. However, please note that currently the respondents need at least read access to the underlying source lists to be able to see and select the options. And lastly, attachments. If you're needing to collect files or documents from your respondents, the new attachment field support allows you to directly upload any forms into the form. Upload files directly into the form. And this is ideal for scenarios like job applications, project submissions, and any situation where additional documentation is required. And then, of course, as you can see in the screenshot, you've got all of your usual fields as well for your questions. Last but not least, we've got the ability to set notifications and start and end dates. You'll be able to choose to be notified when someone submits a response, what message they receive when they've submitted it, and a message to those who try and access the form once the time frame has been closed. In this screenshot, the number 1 refers to whether or not you receive email notifications every time someone submits a response, that is. And so you can have that on or off depending on your needs. If you have it off, you'll have to manually go into the Lists app to then check for any responses. Point 2 allows you to set a limit of the number of responses from one person, which should hopefully stop any potential bot spam or potential data inflation if someone happens to fill in the form multiple times. Lastly, point 3 is the key option for setting the start and end date as well as times for the form submissions. This is perfect for time-sensitive surveys, event registration, or any scenario where you need to control when your form is available to your respondents. Okay, that should be the last of the key updates coming to Microsoft Lists at the moment, all of which greatly improve the way in which we can go about creating and customizing our forms for our needs. The latter features are perfect for ensuring that you get timely responses with greater detail, all whilst providing a smoother experience for respondents, both internally and externally. So I hope you all plan on sending out a bunch of forms now that they've had a big boost in quality of life improvements, so you can start to collect that important data and responses to support your organizational goals. Now this one is set to go live by the end of March. I see we've had a couple of questions come in about lists. Let's just have a quick look. Will Microsoft get rid of the Forms app? They haven't, as far as I've seen, they haven't stated one way or the other if they are or not, but it does seem like they're kind of duplicating that by having this feature within lists. Perhaps they're just merging the two for now. Can I confirm the restrictions on image size for the list forms? Again, there wasn't any details specifically about those when I was looking into this. And as the feature is not out yet, I can't go and double check that. So I'm afraid I can't say for sure what the image size will be. But if it's talking about being able to integrate with your mobile phones, then I would suggest that it's probably a fairly high quality photo from there. Microsoft Forms historically need an account to be able to upload picture files to form. Is that changing? Again, in the update, it wasn't specifically said whether or not you would need an account for this. However, I think it's probably implied that you don't, but then it's Microsoft, which they want you to sign into everything. So it's a little bit hard to say for sure at the moment, I'm afraid. We'll just have to wait and see when it lands, and then from there, we'll be able to go from there. Do I know which one's best to use? I'm assuming you're meaning between Forms and the Forms app and the lists version of Forms. Again, not entirely sure if they are doing away with one of them or not, or if they are just merging this together and bringing a bunch of quality of life updates. So I couldn't say for sure at the moment. We need to just double check. I guess it might depend just on your requirements as well. So Kieran's asked if I can give an example of how location could be useful in lists and forms. I think it would probably just be a case of, you know, when you go on a website and you ask for your location to be able to narrow down things that way. I think it will probably be a similar kind of question where the respondent is allowing you to collect that data. And then I guess it means you can look at where your customers or your attendees are from, if they're having to travel far and therefore needing to use, they're all coming by cars, or if they're going to use public transport, etc. I think those would probably be, in my head, the most obvious way of using that. But I'm sure there's lots of creative people out there that could find different ways of using that as well. Okay. I know I wasn't really fully able to answer a lot of those, but I've done what I can. So I'll move on to the next one. But if you have any more questions, please do drop them in or drop me an email after the event as well. Okay, so we're moving on to SharePoint. Similar to the lists updates, this update will impact several different areas, from performance and experience improvements to grid view changes, as well as new commands. So just in case you don't know, because I'm going to say the words grid view far too many times here, grid view is an option that allows SharePoint users to edit and add multiple list items at once. So let's get started with the performance and experience improvements. So we're starting simple. Pages in SharePoint document libraries are being optimized and will load faster, which is super easy, but brilliant to see as well. And there will be better scrolling with large libraries as well. And what that means is instead of having to go to the next page, if there are more than 100 documents in the library, users can instead just continue to scroll down the page and see everything all in one place. As I said, they're adding an enhanced editing capability within grid view. And this will allow for easier editing across 3 different fields in particular. Choice field editing, where you can select or change a value in choice columns while in grid view. Person field and group field editing, where you can assign users or groups to a file by selecting the person field or group field, again, while in grid view. And image field editing, which allows you to change the images while also staying in grid view, like the similar features in Microsoft Lists. And next up, there are some new commands and navigation options that are coming to grid view. So the new commands, you're able to create new items in grid view, which you can see the full extent of in the red box in the screenshot, and there are just far too many options within that. So I'm not going to bore you by going through them, but you should go and have a play around and see what works for you when the update lands. The document titles will become clickable, meaning that it's easier to open items without leaving grid view if you're needing to double check that it's the right document that you're changing the details about, or change anything within the document as well. And lastly, improvement to folder navigation. So again, within grid view, you can navigate in and out of folders. So if you're changing several documents, you can jump into a new folder, change everything there, come back out, jump into a different folder, all without having to leave grid view. And I will just touch on one more feature that's coming with this update. So grouped view is to be supported while editing in grid view. I know, again, it sounds a bit confusing, but it means that if you select to view your SharePoint document library by specific columns, for example, to group your documents by content type or department or by a specific project, you will then be able to edit them in grid view while keeping the documents grouped in those parameters. Having relevant documents grouped up for editing will be a big time save when you're needing to edit several of them all in one go. And this will help you keep a track as well of the files that you've updated without having to scroll and search for the other relevant documents. Now, there are too many improvements for me to cover today, as there's a bunch more as well coming to the SharePoint document library. But if you're keen for me to explore these further in a future webinar, then please do just let me know. For my regulars watching, you'll know I love to talk about quality of life updates and improvements. And I stand by the opinion that these sorts of smaller, experience-based improvements can add up to be much more impactful than some of those, the big headline updates that Microsoft want to shout about. Now, all of these that I've discussed will hopefully improve the way in which you and your colleagues access and edit your SharePoint document libraries. This update is also due by the end of March. Here's a particularly useful update coming to Microsoft Teams. Soon, if you're presenting and sharing your screen during a Teams meeting, you will be able to also view the chat for that meeting. Now, it might not sound like much, but in case you're not aware, currently when you share your screen in a Teams meeting, it minimizes your Teams window, the one that has the participant's camera, etc., to show your screen. Now, this won't be an issue for you if you have multiple monitors, as you can just move the chat onto another screen, as I have, and you're able to keep an eye on it. Or maybe you're working on a train, or just not from your usual setup. Or maybe, in fact, you just work from one screen anyway. Well, now, when you share your screen, you will get the usual presenter bar that comes up at the top of your screen. And within that, there's going to be a new chat option. And when you click into that, it will open up a compact view of the meeting chat. So just like you can see in the screenshot here, it, along with the compact view of participants' cameras, will be visible to the presenter. So despite it looking like it's on the same screen to the presenter, no one else in the call will actually be able to see this. Meaning that we can keep a tab on questions and conversations, or even refer back to notes and previous messages while showing all the relevant applications on your screen that you want to. Now, this is a great little update that the community have been asking about for a while now, and it could mean that you can ask people to leave their thoughts and input while you're presenting your screen. You're then able to refer to those questions and points brought up later. Perhaps someone has joined and they're traveling with poor signal or just in a very loud area. So it's just easier for them to type their thoughts and questions into the chat. And basically, it's an all-round win for those of you that are presenting and screen sharing in Teams meetings. Last I checked, this was due this month, but when I was checking the details this morning, it has been pushed back to mid-May to early July. So we still got a few months to wait for it, and it's frustrating to see that. But hopefully it means when it comes out, there won't be any bugs or anything like that. It'll just work first time. And sticking with the Microsoft Teams meetings and sharing of screens, here's another interesting update. Copilot will soon be able to answer questions based on content shared on screen during a Teams meeting. Copilot will be able to understand slides, documents, spreadsheets, websites, basically anything that's shared on screen. And users will be able to ask recall questions such as, show me the content that was shared on the screen. Or perhaps more specific questions like, what was the sales target number? If it was on a previous slide and you missed it, perhaps. Furthermore, users will be able to combine transcript and chat data to ask things like, show me all the slides and the feedback on each slide, or to rewrite the paragraph based on the comments from the audience. Now, this sounds amazing, especially if you're stuck in one of those very long meetings where we all know our attention can drift a little bit when a Teams notification or an email pops up in the corner of your eye. So this could be very useful as well if you perhaps were just off on annual leave and unable to attend the meeting as well. And I'll touch on that a little bit later. Now, with all of that being said, there are several stipulations in order to access this. The first of which I'm sure comes as a surprise to no one. You need a Microsoft 365 Copilot license. The meeting must be recorded and transcribed for the feature to work. The specific slide or document or spreadsheet, website, etc., has to be shared for longer than 10 seconds. And this rule, Microsoft say, aims to protect against any accidental screen shares. And I assume gives Copilot enough screen time to be able to properly assess the data as well. Deleting the recording will also delete any of the associated screen data, so Copilot will no longer have access to it or be able to work, as discussed. On the upside though, this update is set to be applied to almost every version of Teams that you can think of. We've got it on the virtual desktop infrastructure, Windows and Mac desktop, web version, as well as iOS and Android as well. So as I said, it could be particularly handy if you're unable to attend the meeting. Just got to make sure that they record and transcribe the meeting, and then in theory, you should be able to use Copilot to help you pick out the key information. And this might save you having to sit through the entire meeting, all of the recording, and just lets you grab the information that's important or relevant to you. Also, generally, it's just a useful way to summarize what you're seeing on screen in tandem with any of the comments in the chat or from different participants. Again, this update was due later this month, but it's been pushed back till late April to early May. Okay, that's us for today. I just wanted to quickly let you know about the next webinar in this series that will be coming next month. It'll take place on Thursday, the 3rd of April, and you can register for that now on our website or through the link that my colleague should just be posting into the chat just now. We look forward to seeing you there. And if there's any topics or questions that you wish for me to cover in the next webinar, then please just get in touch. I'll be happy to have a look. That should be the link in the chat now. And so if you want to just make sure that the event's in your diary, please just go ahead and register anyway. Remember that these webinars are all recorded and accessible through our YouTube channel and website, so please make sure to have a look through them if you're interested in learning a bit more. I'll now just quickly take you through our stakeholder workshop that Bedroq run, and it's called the 8 Rocks assessment. It goes back to those 8 rocks. It goes back to those 8 rocks that I talked through at the very beginning of the webinar. It's a stakeholder workshop designed to get consensus on your business priorities. It can be conducted face-to-face or virtually, and it gets leaders and investors aligned behind the best way to fully assess your IT strategy. And it's important to note here, there's no cost implications with this other than a mutual investment of time. So let's say you're an IT leader at your organization and you need a bit of backup to prove to your CFO that you need to make an investment into your IT, or maybe you're just looking to find ways to better use your existing investments. Well, we're happy to look at all of these things, so please let us know if it's something you're interested in, and we'll be happy to set this up and introduce you to the team that will walk you through that process. Okay, we have a little bit of time for Q&A if anyone has any questions. It looks like I maybe answered them all earlier on when we were talking about Microsoft lists and forms, but that's okay. We'll just keep moving as we have just hit 11:30 anyway. So if you have any more questions, perhaps while you're looking through the fact sheet later today, then please just feel free to reply to that email and I'll send out that I'll be sending out later on today with the recording. I'll then be happy to, chat through any queries about the content in this webinar or anything else as well. And we can look to cover your suggestions in the future as well. So again, thank you very much for joining us today, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Goodbye.